Picture this. A mother and her 8-year-old daughter are living in their beat-up Honda Civic, surviving on gas station snacks and the kindness of strangers. They've been homeless for 3 months, and tonight they have exactly $3.47 between them, barely enough for a single meal from the dollar menu. But as they walk through downtown looking for a safe place to sleep, they stumble upon something that will test every moral fiber in their bodies. An elderly man in an expensive suit is collapsed on the sidewalk, clutching his chest, gasping for air, clearly having a massive heart attack. People are walking right past him like he's invisible. The mother, Sarah, looks at her hungry daughter, then at the dying stranger, then at the crumpled bills in her hand, their last money on earth. What happens next defies all logic, all survival instinct, and everything you'd expect from someone who has absolutely nothing left to lose. This single mother makes a decision that will either destroy what little they have left or change their lives in ways so incredible, so absolutely mind-blowing, that when you hear what this dying stranger does for them in return, you'll understand why this story has been shared millions of times across the internet. Because sometimes the universe has a very strange way of rewarding those who give everything they have to save a complete stranger. If you believe that kindness and compassion deserve to be rewarded, not punished, then smash that subscribe button right now. If you think that when someone gives their last dollar to save a stranger's life, the universe should find a way to pay them back, then this channel is exactly where you belong. Because what you're about to witness isn't just a feel-good story. It's living proof that sometimes, when you sacrifice everything you have for someone else, when you choose humanity over self-preservation, when you show the kind of love that asks for nothing in return, life has an incredible way of showing up for you in ways you never saw coming. This isn't about luck or coincidence. This is about what happens when genuine goodness meets divine timing. So if you believe that people who put others before themselves, especially when they have nothing left to give, deserve to be blessed beyond their wildest dreams, hit that subscribe button and prepare to have your faith in humanity completely restored. Because this story will prove to you that kindness isn't just its own reward. Sometimes it's the key that unlocks doors you never even knew existed. And if you've ever been in a situation where you had to choose between helping yourself or helping someone else, this story is going to hit you right in the heart and remind you why choosing compassion is always, always the right answer. Sarah Mitchell had once been the kind of woman who had it all figured out. 3 months ago, she was a marketing coordinator at a mid-size advertising firm, living in a cozy 2-bedroom apartment with her 8-year-old daughter, Emma, planning birthday parties and dreaming about Emma's future college fund. But life has a cruel way of unraveling everything in the blink of an eye. The company downsized, her position was eliminated, and within weeks, the savings she thought would last disappeared into rent, utilities, and groceries. When the eviction notice came, Sarah had exactly 48 hours to figure out how to keep a roof over her daughter's head. Now their home was a 2004 Honda Civic with a temperamental engine and seats that didn't recline enough for a good night's sleep. The back seat had become Emma's bedroom, filled with her favorite stuffed animals and the few books they managed to keep. Sarah had transformed the front seat into her office, where she spent hours each day applying for jobs on her dying laptop, using free Wi-Fi from coffee shops and libraries, always ordering the cheapest items so they wouldn't be asked to leave. Their daily routine had become a heartbreaking dance of survival and hope. Every morning, Sarah would wake up in whatever parking lot felt safest that night, sometimes behind a 24-hour diner, sometimes in the corner of a church parking lot where the security lights provided some comfort. She'd use public restrooms to freshen up, then drive Emma to school, making sure her daughter always looked clean and happy, never wanting the other kids to know their secret. While Emma was in class, Sarah would spend her days job hunting, filling out applications at retail stores, restaurants, offices, anywhere that might give her a chance. She'd learned to time her visits perfectly, showing up right after lunch when managers might have a few minutes to talk. Her professional clothes were getting worn, but she kept them pressed using the iron at the local laundromat. The hardest part wasn't the discomfort or the uncertainty. It was watching Emma try to stay cheerful. Her daughter never complained about the cramped car or the fact that dinner often came from a gas station. Instead, Emma would create elaborate games to pass the time, turning their situation into an adventure. She'd say, "We're like explorers, Mommy, sleeping under the stars and discovering new places every night." Sarah's heart broke a little more each day, but she refused to let Emma see her despair. Every evening, she'd read to her daughter by the car's interior light, creating voices for characters and making Emma laugh until she forgot they were homeless. She'd tuck Emma in with promises that tomorrow would be better, that soon they'd have their own place again, that this was just temporary. By this particular evening, they were down to $3.47. Sarah had counted it 3 times, hoping somehow the numbers would change. Emma hadn't eaten since the free lunch at school, and Sarah's stomach had been empty for nearly 2 days. They were walking through downtown, looking for a safe place to park for the night, when their world was about to change forever. Sarah and Emma had been walking for nearly 20 minutes, their feet aching from worn-out shoes that had seen better days. The downtown streets were busy with the usual evening crowd. Office workers hurrying to catch buses, couples heading to dinner, teenagers hanging out near the shopping district. But as they turned onto Fifth Street, looking for their usual quiet parking spot behind the old Methodist church, Emma suddenly stopped. "Mommy, look," she whispered, tugging on Sarah's sleeve and pointing toward the sidewalk ahead. There, crumpled against the brick wall of a bank building, was an elderly man in what had clearly been an expensive navy blue suit. His silver hair was perfectly styled, his leather shoes polished to a shine, and even from a distance, Sarah could see the glint of an expensive watch on his wrist. But something was terribly wrong. His face was pale and sweaty, his breathing labored and shallow. His left hand clutched his chest while his right hand reached desperately toward passing pedestrians. "Help! Please!" The man gasped, his voice barely audible over the street noise. Sarah's heart sank as she watched person after person walk right past him. A woman in jogging clothes stepped around him without even glancing down. A group of college students laughed loudly as they passed, completely oblivious to the man's distress. A businessman in a hurry actually stepped over the man's outstretched legs, checking his phone as he continued down the sidewalk. "Is he okay, Mommy?" Emma asked, her 8-year-old voice filled with genuine concern. Sarah knelt down beside the man and immediately recognized the signs: the chest pain, the difficulty breathing, the grayish color of his skin. Her father had died of a heart attack when she was 16, and she'd never forgotten those terrifying moments. "Sir, can you hear me?" Sarah asked gently, placing her hand on his shoulder. "I think you're having a heart attack." The man's eyes focused on her with desperate gratitude. "Can't breathe. Chest feels like it's crushing." Sarah's mind raced. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands, but then stopped. She had exactly $3.47 in her pocket, barely enough for a happy meal that she'd been planning to split with Emma. If she called 911, she knew they'd need to stay with this man until help arrived. That could be 30 minutes, maybe more. Emma hadn't eaten since lunch, and Sarah could see her daughter swaying slightly from hunger. But as she looked down at the stranger's face, she saw someone's father, someone's husband, someone who deserved to live. "Emma, honey, I need you to run to that CVS across the street," Sarah said, pulling the crumpled bills from her pocket. "Buy the cheapest bottle of aspirin you can find. Can you do that for me?" Emma nodded solemnly, understanding somehow that this was important, even if it meant they wouldn't eat tonight. Sarah dialed 911 with trembling fingers. I need an ambulance at 5th and Main Street. There's a man having a heart attack. As Emma ran back with a small bottle of baby aspirin that cost exactly $2.99, Sarah helped the man chew one of the tablets, remembering what the paramedics had done for her father all those years ago. She used her jacket to prop up his head, talking to him softly to keep him conscious. "What's your name?" she asked. "William. William Hartford," he whispered. "Well, William, help is coming. You're going to be okay. Just keep breathing with me." For the next 25 minutes, Sarah knelt on that cold sidewalk, holding a stranger's hand while Emma sat beside them, quietly singing songs to help keep the man calm. Other people continued to walk past, but Sarah never left his side, even when her knees went numb and her back ached. When the paramedics finally arrived, William Hartford was conscious and breathing steadily. As they loaded him onto the stretcher, he grabbed Sarah's hand with surprising strength. You saved my life," he whispered. "What's your name?" "Sarah Mitchell," she replied, "and this is my daughter Emma." "I won't forget this," he said as they wheeled him toward the ambulance. "I promise you, I won't forget." As the ambulance drove away, Sarah and Emma stood on the empty sidewalk, with exactly 48 cents left to their name, and no idea that their lives were about to change forever. 3 days later, Sarah was stocking shelves at a temporary retail job she'd finally landed when her phone rang from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something told her to pick up. "Is this Sarah Mitchell?" a crisp, professional voice asked. "Yes, this is Sarah. Who's calling?" "This is Margaret Chen, attorney for William Hartford. I believe you saved my client's life 3 nights ago. He's been asking to speak with you." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She'd wondered about the elderly man every day since that night, hoping he was okay but never expecting to hear from him again. "He's at Mercy General Hospital," Margaret continued. "Room 412. He's asked me to tell you it's extremely important that you visit him as soon as possible." 2 hours later, Sarah walked into the hospital room with Emma, both of them still wearing their thrift store clothes and carrying the lingering worry of people who never quite know where their next meal is coming from. What they found was William Hartford, sitting up in bed, looking remarkably better but with an expression of profound seriousness. "Sarah, Emma," he said, his voice stronger now, "please sit down. We need to talk." As they settled into the hospital chairs, William studied them both carefully. "I've been thinking about what happened that night for 3 days straight. Do you know that in the 25 minutes you sat with me, 37 people walked past? I counted them. 37 people saw a man dying on the street and chose to do nothing." Sarah shifted uncomfortably. "Anyone would have done the same thing." William shook his head slowly. "No, Sarah, they wouldn't have, and especially not someone in your situation." He paused, his eyes growing serious. "You see, I know who you are now. I had my attorney do some research. I know you're homeless. I know you and Emma have been living in your car for 3 months. I know that the money you spent on that aspirin was probably the last money you had." Sarah's face flushed with embarrassment. "Mr. Hartford, Please let me finish," William said gently. "What you don't know is who I am. My full name is William James Hartford. I'm the founder and CEO of Hartford Industries. We manufacture medical equipment. I'm also the chairman of the Hartford Foundation, which has donated over $200 million to charities across the country." Emma's eyes grew wide, but Sarah looked confused. "I don't understand. Why are you telling us this?" William's expression grew deeply emotional. "Because I'm dying, Sarah. Not from the heart attack. That was just a warning. I have pancreatic cancer. 6 months, maybe less. And I have no family, no children, no siblings. My wife passed away 10 years ago. I've spent the last 2 years searching for someone to continue my life's work. Someone who truly understands what it means to help others." He reached for a folder on his bedside table. "I've interviewed hundreds of people, charity directors, business leaders, philanthropists. But they all wanted something from me. Money, recognition, power. None of them understood what you showed me that night. What do you mean? Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. You had absolutely nothing to gain by helping me. In fact, you had everything to lose. You sacrificed your last few dollars, your daughter's dinner, your time, your comfort, for a complete stranger who couldn't give you anything in return. That's not just kindness, Sarah. That's the purest form of human compassion I've ever witnessed. William opened the folder and pulled out several official-looking documents. I want you to run the Hartford Foundation. I want you to take over my life's work of helping people who need it most. Because if anyone understands what it means to need help, what it means to have nothing and still give everything, it's you. Sarah stared at him in shock. Mr. Hartford, I don't have any experience running a foundation. I'm not qualified for something like that. William smiled for the first time since they'd entered the room. Sarah, you saved my life with 48 cents and a heart full of love. You're the most qualified person I've ever met. Over the next 2 hours, William Hartford didn't just change Sarah and Emma's lives. He gave them a complete transformation that seemed almost too incredible to believe. Margaret, William said to his attorney, please bring me the Riverside property papers. Margaret handed him another folder, and William turned to Sarah. There's a 4-bedroom house about 20 minutes from here. It's been empty for 6 months. I bought it as an investment property. It's yours now. Fully paid off, utilities connected, furnished. You and Emma can move in tomorrow. Emma gasped and grabbed her mother's hand, but Sarah shook her head in disbelief. Mr. Hartford, we can't accept something like that. It's too much. It's not a gift, Sarah. It's an investment in the future of my foundation. The foundation's new director needs a proper home office. William smiled at Emma. And young Emma here needs a yard to play in her own bedroom. But William wasn't finished. He pulled out a checkbook and began writing. This is your starting salary as executive director of the Hartford Foundation, $120,000 per year, plus full benefits and a company car. And this, he wrote another check. This is Emma's college fund, $200,000, enough for any university she chooses. Sarah's hands were shaking as she stared at the checks. I don't understand. Why are you doing this? You barely know us. William's expression grew deeply serious. Sarah, in 30 years of business, I've learned that you can teach someone accounting, management, even fundraising. But you cannot teach someone to have a heart like yours. What you did that night wasn't just about saving my life. It was about who you are at your core. He leaned forward, his voice filled with conviction. I've spent millions of dollars helping people, but I've always wondered if I was really making a difference. You spent your last $3 on a stranger and didn't think twice about it. That's not just generosity. That's the kind of pure compassion that can change the world. William reached into his nightstand and pulled out a thick binder. This foundation helps homeless families find housing, provides scholarships for underprivileged children, funds medical treatments for people who can't afford them. Everything you and Emma have experienced, everything you've struggled with, that's exactly why you're perfect to run this organization. Emma looked up at her mother with wide eyes. Mommy, does this mean we don't have to sleep in the car anymore? Sarah's eyes filled with tears as William answered for her. No, sweetheart. You'll have your own bedroom, with your own bed, and all the books you could ever want. But then William said something that would stick with Sarah forever. Sarah, I'm not giving you this foundation because I feel sorry for you. I'm trusting you with my life's work because you've already proven that you understand what really matters. When you had nothing, you still found a way to give. Now I'm giving you the resources to help others the way you helped me. 3 weeks later, as Sarah sat in her new home office, reviewing grant applications from families just like she used to be, she understood what William had really given her. It wasn't just money or a house or even a job. He had given her the chance to turn her pain into purpose, her struggle into strength, and her compassion into a lifetime of helping others who needed it most. This mother's $3 act of kindness became a $1 million blessing. But here's what makes this story truly incredible. Sarah didn't help that stranger because she knew who he was or what he could do for her. She helped him because it was the right thing to do, even when doing the right thing meant her daughter would go hungry that night. Think about it for a moment. When you're down to your last few dollars, when you haven't eaten in 2 days, when your child is depending on you for survival, what would you have done? Would you have walked past that dying man like the other 37 people did? Would you have called 911 but kept walking? Or would you have made the same impossible choice that Sarah made? Here's what I really want to know. Have you ever been in a situation where helping someone else meant sacrificing something important for yourself or your family? Maybe it wasn't life or death like Sarah's story, but maybe it was choosing between your lunch money and helping a classmate, or giving your last $20 to a homeless person when you needed gas money. Drop your stories in the comments below because I guarantee you, every single one of you has faced a moment where you had to choose between self-preservation and compassion. And here's the thing, this isn't just a feel-good story about getting rewarded for being kind. This is about what happens when you lead with your heart instead of your fear, when you choose to see someone else's humanity, even when you're fighting for your own survival. Sarah's story proves that sometimes the universe really is paying attention, and sometimes kindness doesn't just change the person you're helping, it changes your entire destiny. So if this story reminded you that compassion is never wasted, that good people deserve good things, and that sometimes the smallest acts of love create the biggest miracles, then smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Because this channel is dedicated to sharing stories that prove kindness isn't just the right thing to do. It's the most powerful force in the world. Trust me, the stories I have coming up will restore your faith in humanity and maybe even inspire you to be the miracle in someone else's life.